Shalom, family. Good to see you all here. I hope you're doing well. Well, Donald Trump seems to think that he's owed $230 million because the FBI went down to Mar-a-Lago and got the files that he was supposed to remove from the White House. If you remember, when he left, he took classified documents that were never supposed to leave the White House. They said they tried numerous times to get those files back from Donald Trump, and he kept blowing everybody off. They kept telling him, just ship everything back to us. He wouldn't do it. He was ignoring everybody. So the FBI went down there and they raided Mar-a-Lago, and they said the files were in boxes inside of a closet. He had some of the boxes in a bathroom, and some were in his ballroom at Mar-a-Lago. That's where they found everything. So he seems to think he was done wrong, and he's owed $230 million of taxpayer money for something that was his fault. And he seems to think he should get this money. Donald Trump don't deserve squat. Talking about he got a lawsuit. He wants the DOJ to give him 200. This man ain't nothing but a damn crook. He ain't nothing but a crook. His ass really, truly is a criminal. I mean, he now he's trying to shake down the government to give him millions of dollars. No, how about taking that 230 million and give it to these people that are on SNAP so they can eat for the month of November? Why don't you take that for a much better cause than Donald Trump's pocket? He doesn't deserve anything. He caused that whole thing. Talking about he was done wrong through these investigations and they ransacked Mar-a-Lago. Well, they wouldn't have ransacked it if you would have just sent those files back. You know, I don't see how he's really turning himself into a victim in the whole thing. Donald Trump ain't a victim to squat. He doesn't deserve nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can hear this bull crap from him directly and hear how other people feel. But this ain't nothing but a shakedown. Donald Trump, he intends on leaving the White House very wealthy, and he wants a lot of that wealth to come from the government. See, when he was a first termer, back in 2016 to 2020, he didn't get nothing. See, you got to be a two-term president in order to get millions of dollars when you leave. See, the Obamas both got 60 million each. They gave Barack Obama 60 million, and they gave Michelle Obama $60 million when they left the White House. If you are a one-term president, you don't get that. You know, you don't get the library and the money and all that. And Donald Trump wanted that money, and he didn't get it. So I guess he's trying to invent other ways to get money from this government that he really is not entitled to at all, as far as I'm concerned. All right, so let me share my screen so we can get started. Shalom to everybody in the chat. Please give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you.
A lot of money, but I'm not looking for money. I'd give it to charity or something. I would give it to charity, any money. But look, what they did, they rigged the election. And as you know, we had, in one case, 60 Minutes had to pay us a lot of money. George Slavodopoulos had to pay us a lot of money, and they already paid. You know, they paid me a lot of money. because what they did was wrong. And, when somebody does what's wrong. Now, with the country, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the decision, right? And, that decision would have to go across my desk. And it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. In other words, did you ever have one of those cases where you have to decide how much you're paying yourself in damages? But I was damaged very greatly, and any money that I would get, I would give to charity.
So I'm just leaving the White House, and I know we say the word unprecedented a lot, but this one really would be unprecedented. Sources tell us that President Trump is pushing for the federal government to pay him $230 million. This would be compensation for the federal investigations he faced. The president claims the federal government owes him. You remember the president filed 2 claims against the Justice Department for investigations he faced in 2023 and one last year. The first was the investigation into Russian meddling. The second was those classified documents that the president took from the White House to his Mar-a-Lago estate and had stored in a storage area, even the bathroom and the ballroom. But if this settlement were to go through, the president of the United States would collect about $250 million of taxpayer money. And what makes this even more unprecedented, the officials at the Department of Justice that would likely have to sign off on this once served as the president's personal attorneys. So our team asked the Justice Department about this, and they said they would follow the advice and counsel of career ethics officials.
Look at him. We got some hot news. New York Times done reported it. Look, Donald Trump, y'all president, the one y'all voted for, and y'all should be the one that got to pay this. Donald Trump is trying to go through administrative proceedings with the Department of Justice, and he got his people, in leadership right now, to sue the American government or the federal government for $230 million for the harm and the pain he suffered for the investigation and conviction. I said, and conviction for the harm he caused. What he caused. He trying to sue us. Who? Said he got some pain and he suffered some harm. Where's his scars at? Where's that? See, this why he should have went to jail. This why he should have went to jail, so he could have been held accountable for his actions. Yeah. Everything he done, he was convicted of, he done it. Y'all know he done it. Donald Trump think the taxpayers need to pay him $230 million for the pain and the suffering that he went through for doing what he did. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And he going through his own people that he done put in places, to get this money. You understand what I'm saying? If the Department of Justice give Donald Trump $230 million for his pain and suffering, they better pay us too. Hell, they better give us some money too. They better give us some money too. Because you know what? We suffering right now. We got some pain and we got some harm. All of us need to put in a lawsuit right now. Put in our lawsuit. We gonna counter heels. Put in our lawsuit and say we got a whole lot of pain and suffering with him being president of the United States. Now, I don't know what he gonna use the $230 million for. Maybe to go towards what he just tore up in that White House. Just tore up it. Look, a mess over there. Just tore up, or maybe his presidential library, or maybe his own bank account. I don't know. But if the Department of Justice give Donald Trump $230 million, come on, for what he did do, after you pay him, you make sure you throw his ass under the jailhouse. Pay him and throw him under. Because that's what you should have done in the first place.
But as far as all of the litigation, everything that's been involved, yeah, they probably owe me a lot of money. But if I get money from our country, I'll do something nice with it, like give it to charity or give it to the White House while we restore the White House.
That was President Trump just a few moments ago in the Oval Office confirming that, yes, he is asking the Department of Justice to pay him money in compensation for what he says is the damage he suffered during the classified documents investigation and during what he now refers to as the Russia hoax. How much money? Well, Trump would not say, but the New York Times did. The reporting says he is seeking $230 million from the U.S. government. And in case you are unclear, if his claims are approved, whatever the amount is, you and me, the American taxpayer, would be on the hook to pay it. Now, according to the reporting, Trump filed two separate claims against the Department of Justice before he was president, saying his civil rights were trampled on by the government and he was damaged by that and deserves compensation. But now that he's actually sitting in the Oval Office, Trump says it's a little awkward.
And, that decision would have to go across my desk. And it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. In other words, did you ever have one of those cases where you have to decide how much you're paying yourself in damages? But I was damaged very greatly, and any money that I would get, I would give to charity.
So what is this damage that Trump keeps talking about? Well, according to the reporting, Trump filed the first claim for compensation in 2023 for what Trump now calls the Russia hoax. The other claim was filed in 2024 over the FBI search of his Mar-a-Lago home during the classified documents investigation. Of course, the FBI didn't just burst into Mar-a-Lago because they felt like it on a random day. That raid was approved by a judge. They had a valid search warrant, which was issued because of what the Biden Justice Department described as unauthorized and highly classified documents sitting in boxes in Trump's Mar-a-Lago ballroom and bathroom in Florida. Now, it's also worth noting, about the same time, the Biden FBI also searched then President Biden's own home and office because they also believed he was holding on to unauthorized, highly classified documents. Also, just in case you forgot, former Vice President Mike Pence also raised his hand at the same time and said, yeah, I think I got some of those classified documents in my possession too. Now, for the record, in the Trump classified documents case in July of 2024, a Florida federal judge dismissed the federal charges against then candidate Donald Trump. Special counsel Jack Smith appealed that ruling, but then Trump won the election, so Smith resigned, and the Biden Department of Justice dropped the appeal. So that case never actually finished, but the last ruling is what stands, which was case dismissed. As for the Russia investigation, that resulted in special counsel Robert Mueller producing the Mueller report, which determined that, yes, Russia did try to interfere in the 2016 election, but it did not establish that members of the 2016 Trump campaign had conspired with or coordinated with the Russians. So also, case dismissed, at least against Trump himself. Now, it is a fact that, yes, you can absolutely file a complaint for damages against the Department of Justice if you feel like your civil or constitutional rights were violated, or if you were wrongly imprisoned and you were not convicted of a crime. This does happen. And yes, it is also true that Trump was never convicted of those federal crimes connected to either of those federal investigations. So he can do this. But now that he's president, should he? That's for you to decide. I want to make one more point. As far as we know, the $230 million in damages have not yet been approved by the Department of Justice. But to get the approval, they would have to go through the chain of command at the DOJ. That means Trump's hand-picked Attorney General Pam Bondi would have to at least take a look at it. But one of the signatures required to approve it would have to come from the Deputy Attorney General. Trump's Deputy Attorney General is a guy named Todd Blanche. Now, if that name sounds familiar or if his face looks familiar, it should. Todd Blanche was then candidate Donald Trump's personal lawyer during his criminal cases in New York. Blanche was also the DOJ representative who recently flew down to Florida to interview Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. A few days after Blanche conducted that interview, Maxwell was transferred out of her high-security prison and into a low-security federal camp in Texas.
ABC senior political correspondent Rachel Scott live from the White House. And Rachel, which cases is President Trump citing specifically?
Yeah, well, Kara, the president here is talking about two different investigations into him. First, back in 2016, remember that investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. The president also citing that investigation into him on mishandling classified documents. We all remember those images of the president storing classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate, in a storage room, in a bathroom even, also a ballroom. The president says that he's now maybe considering asking and demanding for this payment as compensation for those federal investigations into him. He said it could be about $230 million, though he wouldn't give an exact price tag. But that would be American taxpayer money that the Justice Department would then hand the President of the United States as a settlement.
Now, I think it's important to note that those cases were not resolved with a finding of innocence or guilt. But when the president, makes a claim like this, he's got people in the Justice Department who are basically underneath him. The conflicts of interest seem to be pretty profound here, potentially.
Yeah, Mark, and this is unprecedented. And look, I know we say that word unprecedented a lot here in Washington, D.C., but we have really never seen anything like this before. Not only just to have the president, of course, in charge of the Justice Department. If this settlement did go through, it would be his own Justice Department that would be handing him $230 million of American taxpayer money. But also, we are learning that the officials that would typically sign off on something like this would be the top DOJ officials. And right now, at the very top of the Justice Department are two top officials who were once President Trump's own former personal attorneys. We're talking about Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche. And so we reached out to the Justice Department to ask about any potential conflicts of interest, whether or not these DOJ officials would ultimately be in charge of signing off on a massive settlement like this. And they told us that they would continue to follow the advice of career ethics officials, but they would not comment any further. Democrats are slamming this, calling this an overreach and illegal.
Guess what? He was investigated, his home was searched, he was indicted in multiple cases, and now he's asking the Justice Department to pay him $230 million. Trust me, it's been checked, and that is not a typo. 2 administrative claims were filed before Trump took office again. One tied to the FBI's Mar-a-Lago search, the other tied to the 2016's Russia investigation. Together, they seek roughly $230 million in damages and costs. And here's the part that should make your jaw drop. He's now running the same government that would review any payout, and he openly said that any decision would have to run across his desk. The ethics alarms are definitely sounding because some senior Justice Department officials who could be involved in this process previously represented him or his allies, a conflict that critics are saying undermines trust in any review. So taxpayer money to resolve investigations he's long called witch hunts, and now the same system he leads could be asked to cut the check. Imagine being told that the referee also owns one of the teams. This is absolutely a stress test for democracy. Call your rep, share this, demand independent ethics reviews. If justice can be influenced or rubber stamped by insiders, what's left for the rest of us? Justice is not a loyalty program. It is supposed to be blind, and right now, it's staring straight at a $230 million ask.
So Trump is demanding that the DOJ pay him $230 million for the past investigations against him. Can you even begin to imagine for 1 second what would happen if Joseph Biden had demanded that the DOJ, aka the taxpayers, pay him $230 million for the investigations against him? And not only that, but during a government shutdown that we are now in the 3rd week of, you are not getting Congress together and negotiating something to get the government back open. You are busy demanding that the DOJ, aka the taxpayers, pay you $230 million. And you're the president of the United States. Embarrassing.
Oh, there's a reason why Donald Trump put certain people in place because I bet you they won't tell him no. They're going to try to find a way to get that money to him. And as far as him donating at all, I don't believe Donald Trump. I don't believe him. I don't believe he's going to donate a damn thing. He's just saying what he needs to say that sounds good. But he ain't giving up no money. That man is trying to get every dime he can get his hands on. But his investigations were all his fault. And he expects to be compensated for something that was clearly his fault. Boy, I mean, if that's the case, why don't everybody in prison in this country file lawsuits saying, although they committed the crime, they are entitled to some money. So this 34 convicted felon is definitely living up to his title of criminal, for real. Donald Trump don't deserve shit. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude my final live stream, which is on the Cubans being deported. That will be at 8:45. So I hope to see you all there. Shalom, family.